Oh yes, my Straight Talk family, it's time to keep moving on. Time for me to say greetings to the world. So whenever you hear that theme song, you know it's time for another edition of Straight Talk. So you know as well that we reach and communicate with you all over the globe because we are on the World Wide Web, and we come to you from the beautiful federation of two lovely islands and one beautiful paradise called St. Kitts and Nevis. So let me say good night, St. Kitts and Nevis. Let me say good night to the entire Caribbean region. And I welcome all to Straight Talk, and I thank those who continue to share the link, because when you do, we get first timers. Now, I'll be surprised we don't have first timers tonight, and if we do, I want to inform you first timers that Straight Talk is a public service program that facilitates and promotes free, underline free expression on all issues of national interest, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On Straight Talk, you do have a forum to express yourselves freely. Let us, my Straight Talk family, in the process, let us in the process try to raise the level of national, regional, and international discourse. Let us in the process try to raise the level of national, regional, and international consciousness by alerting our people to their rights, to their responsibilities, and to their obligations. My name is Ian Patches Liebird, and I thank Almighty God for blessing me with that opportunity to join you in conversation on yet another occasion. As your host, I always hasten to pledge that I will remain an untiring advocate of truthfulness. And I'm always reminded of the words of a favorite hymn of mine, which goes something like this, and except we are called to be God's prophets, speaking for the truth and for the right, standing firm for godly justice, bringing evil things to light, So let's seek the courage needed, our high calling to fulfill, that we all may know the blessing of the doing of God's will. So my Straight Talk family, and for the first timers in particular, let me inform you that absolutely nothing is watered down on this program. We never try to make it more interesting, neither by omission or by exaggeration. We're not about sensationalism. We're not about creating excitement, especially if that comes at the expense of accuracy, because we always try to lean on the facts, as it's my bounden duty to present what I call the unvarnished truth, the plain truth, especially when it comes to governance, integrity, transparency, wherever you are in St. Kitts and Nevis and wherever you are on this globe. Because we are joined together on this program all over the Federation. We are joined with people in the diaspora all around the globe, the world. And some we know very well, some we have met, some we may have never ever met, and some we will never ever meet physically, that is. I know we meet spiritually, I'm sure we do. But we are different people, and we entertain different views. As I call it, we entertain a diversity of views. So we don't always agree on the issues that are advanced in this program. And that's fine, because like I said, we are different people. But, I will be disappointed if ever we start to become disagreeable. Well, let's thank God Almighty nonetheless for helping us to understand, how pleasant, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Let us therefore hope and pray for the day when we will all sing His praise together. So welcome again, my people, and thanks for those who continue to share the link. Like I said, we do get first-timers. Please continue to do so. I must always remind my first-timers in particular that Straight Talk is a participative program. By that I mean we include your calls and we include your emails. We give you access, yes, via emails, for those who like what I call the cloak of anonymity. And if you're so minded calling, the numbers are on your screens. The email address is on your screen as well. And we provide you access, and we start our dialogue after our presentation of a thesis. We also heard live on Alexa. Those who have that app, just say Alexa play Massive Vibes Radio, and you're into Straight Talk as well. And we thank our host on Alexa for providing that access at a nominal cost. And as I say cost, I continue to repeat it, because I am hoping we are getting donations to support our efforts here on Straight Talk. We have got donations, and I want to say at all times a big thank you, because whatever your donation, be assured it goes a long way. It helps to continue this important public service. Yes, it's a public service. So others who may wish to donate can simply scan the code on your screen, and you will access the payment form, which is a very simple process, my Straight Talk family. It takes you a few minutes, and it's confidential. Take my word, it's confidential. You're not giving up any information whatsoever, except whatever your donation is, whether $1, $5, $10, $20, whatever you feel like giving. We welcome it. We say a special welcome as well to our Straight Talk Brigade. Jasmine is a new young comer. Dwayne, Tristan, Shamar, Kevin, Young Rue, I've heard from your grandmother for a long time. Just hope she is doing well over there in South Carolina. Jamal over there in Anguilla. Travis Travon. Upon extension, and my grandson Neymar, his good friend Soraya. How is school going? How is school going, Elizabeth? And what about that special lady in St. Louis? The Texas Queen as well. Oh, things are well with you. And I heard from that friend of mine as we discussed. But Best We Talk family, we always begin with our observations in review, which is a time when we reflect on some issues we may have raised. We answer your questions. Sometimes you give me, as I call it, some homework. I have no homework at this time. But we establish what was accomplished, how it has helped others, and what new we have learned as a people, because it is a learning process. I know many of you have been calling and asking about the National Bank criminal investigation. The bank has been silent. The regulator has been silent. But we are not going to go away until we get answers. The inspector of the white collar crime unit, we expect him to do his work as well. I trust that he's investigating fully. But my Straight Talk family will get back to the National Bank at some stage. We want to inform you that after our observations in review, we will move to our thesis, which I have titled for tonight, SAMAL, the same old agriculture policy, but expecting different results. And we'll get to that very interesting and very important thesis. But before that, we will consider our first observation, which I dare say goes to the very heart of CARICOM unity. It's about geopolitics, and I note our own leader here never gets himself indulged or never indulged in geopolitics, which it's as important to the world, to every country. But CARICOM unity and Trinidad and Tobago's security leadership, I believe, is in question amidst controversial comments made by its Prime Minister, Kamla Persad-Besesa. The Caribbean community, since its inception, has maintained a collective stance on key regional and international issues, grounded in principles of non-intervention, diplomacy, and regional solidarity. Among its shared positions, the designation of the Caribbean as a zone of peace has been central, emphasizing the region's resistance to external militarization, interference, and conflict. It is against this backdrop recent statements by Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Besesa expressing support for former U.S. President for President Donald Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump's aggressive policy, I should state, toward Venezuela, and her pronouncement that the Caribbean is not a zone of peace. And this obviously has ignited intense debate and concern within CARICOM and among regional observers. At the the United Nations General Assembly, the 80th UNGA, Kamala Prasad had this to say, my Straight Talk family.
The UN has been much more than diplomacy. It is a lifeline to many countries, bringing education to classrooms, care to clinics, recovery to villages, and growth to fragile economies. On this milestone anniversary, we must face a very hard truth. The spirit of multilateralism is under strain, the effects of which has begun to undermine the foundations of stability and peace. Trinidad and Tobago confronts conflicts that seriously threaten our stability and peace. The notion that the Caribbean is a zone of peace has become a false ideal.
The notion, Kamala submits, that the Caribbean is or has become a zone of peace has become a false ideal. And Trinidad and Tobago's role in CARICOM security, it has played a lead role in the regional security coordination within CARICOM, particularly through institutions like the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security Impacts and the Regional Security System RSS. The country's strategic geographic location and relative economic size have positioned it as a key player in matters related to drug interdiction, intelligence sharing, border security, and anti-terrorism efforts. However, leadership in regional security demands more than resources and geography. It requires political neutrality, a commitment to regional consensus, and sensitivity to geopolitical realities, particularly when neighbors like Venezuela are undergoing deep social, economic, and political crises. Support for Trump's Venezuela policy, has it brought a fracture in regional solidarity? The Venezuela crisis has been a delicate issue for CARICOM. While some member states have leaned closer to the U.S. line, the consensus approach has generally favored dialogue, non-interference, and respect for sovereignty. Prime Minister Prasad Bisesa's alignment with Trump's interventionist posture breaks from that tradition and may be perceived as undermining CARICOM's collective voice when she said this as well, my Straight Talk family.
Across Latin America and the Caribbean, homicides range from 20 to more than 60 per 100,000. President Trump's comments on the effects on countries of relentless narco and human trafficking, about organized crime, illegal immigration are correct. Countries are not only defined by geographical borders, but also by cultural identities, religious beliefs, ethnic compositions, and, of course, legal structures. Because of the recent increased protection at the U.S. southern border, illegal migration of drug cartels and criminal gangs have been rerouted in the Eastern Caribbean, which is where my country is located. Therefore, Trinidad and Tobago is particularly grateful for the U.S. military presence in the Southern Caribbean.
My Straight Talk family, Kamala's comments could signal a drift away from regional unity, potentially embolden other leaders to pursue individual foreign policies that may not align with CARICOM's established positions. Now, this would weaken the bloc's diplomatic leverage, I submit, and may open the door to external geopolitical manipulation in a region like ours that has historically served as a buffer zone rather than a battleground. Not a zone of peace? Isn't this undermining the foundational CARICOM principle? Perhaps more alarming is Prasad Bissasa's rejection of the idea that the Caribbean is a zone of peace. This phrase is not a mere slogan. It reflects decades of diplomatic efforts to keep the Caribbean insulated from Cold War tensions, superpower rivalries, and regional militarization. To declare otherwise is to invite a redefinition, beg your pardon, of the Caribbean's role in global affairs, one that could justify foreign military presence or intervention, undermine CARICOM's moral authority on international issues, destabilize fragile regional security frameworks, and create division among member states with differing alliances. Implications for CARICOM unity and regional policy. Her statements have serious implications. Trust in Trinidad and Tobago's leadership on security may erode, especially among members like St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, or Antigua and Barbuda, which may have shown greater support for Venezuelan sovereignty. CARICOM could face increased internal discord as nations reassess their alliances and foreign policy positions in light of such unilateral pronouncements. The region's ability to present a unified front on global platforms such as the United Nations or the Organization of American States, the OAS, may weaken, reducing its influence on matters like climate change, trade, or international financing. And I say it is time for reflection and dialogue, I must admit, my Straight Talk family. But Kamala Prasad raised her issues and rationalized her position this way, my Straight Talk family.
The reality is stark. No such peace exists today. For too many in the region, peace is not daily life, but an elusive promise, glimpsed and never grasped. In its absence, our citizens pay a terrible toll. In 2024, for example, Trinidad and Tobago, a tiny nation in the Caribbean of 1.4 million persons, we recorded 623 murders in 1 year last year. 41%, 100,000. That's about 40%, and many of them are gang-related. So the reality is being a zone of peace is still an elusive dream that we're pursuing.
An elusive dream, strong words. But CARICOM must now engage in open dialogue to clarify its shared positions and reaffirm its commitment to peace and ensure that national interests do not fracture regional unity. If CARICOM fails to manage such divergences, it risks becoming less a community and more a collection of loosely aligned states. And that's a dangerous prospect in an increasing volatile international world. And my second observation, my Straight Talk family, I had to spend some time on that one because it's very important and we need to address these issues. We are still following that land grab in Nevis. And each time you hear the Premier speak, he gives you more questions to ask. And his press conference, he said this last Monday, I think it was, or Tuesday.
And so we have always known that a development was proposed. When I say always, in terms of since the talk started about this prospect of a development. In fact, I believe I would have met with this developer for the first time and learned who he was in June or thereabouts of 2024. Now, these individuals would have had a preliminary conversation with us, and as I said, we would have said what we said to them about not owning land, but we also said to them to go and speak to stakeholders on the island. We directed them to planning. For example, we directed them to various stakeholders. We said, go have some conversations, see if you can by those conversations, inform yourself as to what it is you want to do and how you can go about doing it. And so all of that would have been a prelude to a formal application that would have come to us. I would say we got that formal application. I don't have a date in front of me, but it would have been sometime in, I would want to say it would have been sometime in August or thereabouts, perhaps late July.
I hope you're following the dates, my Sri Talk family. He first met the investor, he said, in July 2024. Now that same investor, share register speaks to July 2024 as well. We asked him the question whether his trip to Monaco, when he regaled on that millionaire's yacht, was that yacht belonging to Oliver Johnson. And these are issues. And we must also ask whether his wife, Mama Brantley, Sharon Mama Brantley, was contacting the landowners. And when did he learn about this, my Sri Talk family?
Mr. Premier, you said the government ain't involved in selling no land in the south. Here my question to you. Are you as the Premier, or anybody in your family involved in purchasing or selling land in the south?
The short answer is no. My wife is a realtor, and she has been doing some work for the developers in calling landowners, and asking them if they're minded to sell their land to the developers.
My Sri Talk family, there are so many questions that remain unanswered in this corrupt deal conducted by the Premier of Nevis, Mark Brantley. But we are following that story, and we will not let it go. But those are my observations in review for tonight, and I move right into my thesis, which I've titled SAMAL, Same Old Agriculture Policy, but Expecting Different Results. And I came against the backdrop of the 19th Caribbean Week of Agriculture, which is hosted here by St. Kitts and Nevis, and as well the 30th Agriculture Open Day. And I submit, my Sri Talk family, it is time to revolutionize agriculture in St. Kitts. I submit, enough is enough, fellow citizens, farmers, the youth and patriots of this proud nation. And tonight is not just to talk about agriculture, but to expose the broken policies, recycled promises, and failed leadership that have kept our agriculture sector in a state of stagnation, decline, and shame. And that leadership is combined between Terence Michael Drew and Samuel Duggins. And we must call it what it is. This is a betrayal of our farmers, our food security, and our future. Recall, 20 years ago in 2005, sugar production in St. Kitts came to an end. It was a bold decision at that time, taken by then Prime Minister Denzel Llewellyn Douglas. And it was meant to usher in a new era of agricultural diversification, beg your pardon, and local food sustainability. But tell me this, and ask yourselves, what has changed since 2005? Where is the bold new vision? Where is the investment? Where are the results? Year after year, the Minister of Agriculture, Samuel Duggins, and his department, all they do is recycle the same tired rhetoric, the same strategic plans, the same empty buzzwords and expect us to believe that this time things will be different. At the 19th Caribbean Agricultural Week, we heard more of the same. We heard talk of South-South cooperation, climate resilience, youth engagement, and agri-tech. But what we didn't hear is how exactly these glossy words translate into real crops, real support, real solutions for farmers on the ground. We heard that agriculture is the anchor for food security. We heard these fancy words coming from the minister himself. He said this.
Gather here under the theme, Sowing Change, Harvesting Resilience, transforming our Caribbean food systems for 2025 and beyond. This theme, ladies and gentlemen, captures both the urgency of our time and the opportunities that lie before us. It reminds us that the seeds we plant here today, the policies we shape, the partnerships we build, will determine the resilience and the prosperity that we shall reap tomorrow. It also challenges us not only to manage agriculture, but to transform it into the bedrock of a food secure, climate smart, and economically vibrant Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, agriculture is not just another sector. It is the very lifeblood of our people. It is the guarantee that every family can access healthy and nutritious food. It is the engine that can reduce our food import rate, create dignified work for our youth and our women, fuel entrepreneurship, and anchor our societies in resilience against global shifts.
And my Straight Talk family, with straight faces, we were told that bananas, yes, bananas, will be the miracle crop to save agriculture in St. Kitts. A crop that the Windward Islands abandoned years ago because it could no longer compete on the global market. That's the vision. That's the plan. My Straight Talk family, this is not leadership. This is lunacy. And Albert Einstein once said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, let me ask you, is this not insanity? There has been no meaningful increase in the agriculture budget in over a decade. Our extension officers are under-resourced, as Straight Talk family. And the minister made this confession to the world just yesterday.
But colleagues, let us admit, our region has not always given agriculture the priority it deserves. Too often, it has been seen as a sector of last resort, rather than recognized as a pillar of sovereignty and a pillar of growth. For too long, our farmers and our fishers, the true heroes of food security, have carried the heaviest of these burdens with too little recognition and too little support.
And our farmers are overworked and undersupported. Our fisheries sector, which should be thriving in a maritime nation like ours, surrounded by water, by ocean, continues to be neglected. Meanwhile, they throw one-day spectacles like the Agriculture Open Day and expect applause. A day of music, food and speeches smack in the middle of the Caribbean Agricultural Week, as if it was a bandarama, fried fish stores, and a substitute for serious agricultural reform by Straight Talk family. Look at the list of bans. It's a bandarama. Look at it for yourselves, my Straight Talk family. But let me be clear. We must not be fooled. The Department of Agriculture and Fisheries has become a revolving door of inefficiency and incompetence. The minister talks, but the fields remain barren. The people clap, but the country still imports over $200 million in food every year, when SAMAL promised to cut our food bill. Remember this, my Straight Talk family?
Madam Speaker, I now wish to turn our attention squarely to the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Marine Resources. In this ministry, Madam Speaker, our goal is, of course, to ensure that we bring food and nutrition security to our nation. We want our people not only to have more locally produced food, Madam Speaker, but to ensure that this food is of the highest nutritional and quality standards. And in that regard, Madam Speaker, we have adopted a more measurable goal. A goal that we have not adopted alone. For as members of CARICOM, we have bought into the 25 by 25 agenda, where we have agreed across CARICOM to invest in our people that they may more adequately be able to participate in reducing our food import bill by 25% by the year 2025.
And that has suddenly eased up to the year 2030. But where are the protected greenhouses? Where are the farmer subsidies? Where is the national seed bank? Where is the irrigation infrastructure for climate resilience? Where is the access to regional and international markets? Let me tell you, none of these will come to fruition under the current leadership, because leadership is not about photo ops, it's about vision. Leadership is about courage and execution. It's about putting farmers at the center of policy and not politics. So tonight, I stand before you not only to expose the rot, but to demand change. We must radically overhaul the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, starting from the top. Redirect funding from talk shops to real tools, real training, and real technology for our farmers. Empower young people with land, finance, and innovation to make agriculture attractive and profitable again. Launch a national food sovereignty strategy so that we feed ourselves first before begging the world for assistance. Agriculture is national security. Have you thought about that? Agriculture is dignity. Agriculture is independence. And as long as this country continues to depend on the weekly container ships to eat, we are not free. My fellow citizens, we deserve better. Our farmers deserve better. And St. Kitts and Nevis deserves bold, competent, and accountable leadership that treats agriculture not as a sideshow, but as a national priority. The time for talk is over. The time for action is now. If the spirit of true food sovereignty will ever rise again in our land, we have to take action now. What we have is a rotten strategy, the collapse of agriculture under failed leadership. My Straight Talk family, tonight, I speak not in celebration, but in frustration, in truth, and in defense of our farmers, some of whom I saw protesting today, our fishers, and our food future. We've had enough. For too long, we've been fed empty slogans, glossy plans, and glorified public events, while the real backbone of agriculture in St. Kitts, and I speak specifically to St. Kitts, continues to break under the weight of neglect, poor planning, and incompetence. The Department of Agriculture and Fisheries has become a national embarrassment, and the Minister SAMAL Duggins, instead of confronting the hard local realities, continues to choose foreign fantasies, my Straight Talk family, like this. He raised as well. He said this, my Straight Talk family.
Agriculture today demands regional solidarity and global partnerships, especially South-South collaboration. This is why St. Kitts and Nevis has been deepening ties with our brothers and sisters in Africa. More recently, we have been establishing strong bonds with Nigeria. Our partnership with Nigeria, though, is more than just bilateral engagement. It is a demonstration of what South-South collaboration means when you put it into practice. It reflects the understanding that our challenges are shared, and therefore, so too must be our solutions. Together, we can forge a bridge between Africa and the Caribbean. For the Caribbean, this collaboration is not just optional. It is essential if we are to thrive in a world of shifting geopolitics, fragile supply chains, and growing climate threats. So, as we meet here over the coming days, deliberating on policy, showcasing innovations, strengthening partnerships, let us carry this spirit of solidarity with us. Let us ensure that this Caribbean Week of Agriculture is not only about the Caribbean, but also about our shared journey with the wider global South.
The global South, my Straight Talk family. We hear now that St. Kitts is to become a hub for African agricultural products, particularly from Nigeria. I ask you, what sense does that make when our own local produce is being left to rot in the fields? Watermelons and plantains are given to the pigs. Spoilage. Yet we hear about the bridge between Africa and the Caribbean, in particular St. Kitts and Nevis. What logic is this? That we import or facilitate exports for others when we cannot even secure markets for our own farmers. Right now, across this country, local peppers, flavorful, St. grown, are rotting on the vine in the fields because no one can find a market for these farmers, my Straight Talk family.
For the agriculture section, I don't think the people in charge know what they're doing with the agriculture program. You hear me?
Yeah.
Farmers got too much spoilage out here in the land, can't get it out of the land, and they're asking more people to come plant.
Too much what?
More land for
Spoilage.
Okay.
Yeah, I figure something is wrong there too, Mago. Because they were trying to say plant more by 2025 and whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think the marketing part is working.
Marketing.
And I want to agree with you that a lot of food there, but you can't even take it out the ground because you can't sell it nowhere.
You want to screw with you on marketing and all
I got them out in the ground right now. I call upon someone who is attached to the minister to come look at why that, so that the minister could see with the two eyes. Here with the individuals with two eyes. What paper drop off what to do with the minister? Me and call for the minister health. I mean, call for the minister education. I call for the minister agriculture. How come the minister agriculture ain't got nothing to do with what happened to farm?
Yeah.
Sad. It is sad with how it's going in the country, you know.
Real sad, my Straight Talk family. And what is the minister's plan? Tabasco peppers. Yes, Tabasco. A pepper grown to support a foreign brand, while local varieties sit abandoned. And SAMAL planted the first set of seeds over a year ago. He did this, my Straight Talk family. Remember this?
We put into the ground today the first set of seeds received from Tabasco as a part of our Tabasco pepper project and that partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, this partnership will definitely see St. Kitts and Nevis moving forward in the right direction. As we know, Tabasco pepper is the widest distributed pepper sauce in the world. Not just the region, not just a hemisphere, but the entire world. And for St. Kitts and Nevis to be part of that ecosystem, for us to have a partnership with such a global institution, speaks volumes when you consider our size and our positioning in the global hemisphere.
And his boss, Terrence Michael Drew, claimed that he was the one who invited Tabasco. Claimed he's the one who invited Tabasco. Forgive me for that, my Straight Dog family. We'll get back to that. But you mean to tell me, my Straight Dog family, the department can organize trade links across the Atlantic, but can't arrange a buyer's program in Connery or a storage solution in Sadlers, my Straight Dog family? Can you imagine that? That has to be the impossible. But Drew was to replace the sugar crop with peppers.
We are here transplanting the first set of seedlings into this fertile ground right here in Newton Ground. This is really a remarkable day. Since the days of sugar, we have not had a major crop to replace sugar in a way that it would provide hundreds of jobs and in a way that it would bring foreign direct exchange. So this is revolutionary.
Revolutionary, my Straight Dog family. Tabasco to replace sugar. But let's talk about the agro-processing sector. Another highlight of the minister's speeches. SAMAL boasts about value-added agriculture, about entrepreneurship and processing. But let me tell you the truth. When the watermelon glut hits, they rot. When the mangoes flood in, they rot. Where is the agro-processing? We have no processing capacity, no cold chain infrastructure, no public-private partnership that can respond to surpluses. Not even basic drying, freezing or puree production. Where are the mango chips, the frozen cubes, the watermelon juice exports? Nowhere, because the leadership is missing. And let's just not forget what may be one of the most damaging decisions in recent agricultural history. The sale, my Straight Dog family, of the Central Marketing Corporation. How many of us remembered Simaco? Yes, Simaco was sold, my Straight Dog family. Simaco was for the farmers and the fishers, but it was sold. Then you will hear the minister talk about storage. What storage is SAMAL talking about?
What we have sought to do really, and I can't speak entirely on past efforts, I can speak about now, we are growing for our farmers tomatoes, melons and different type of seedlings, catering during the year to different conditions. What happens after the fruit is harvested? How is it handled? How much of it we are losing? Why are we losing it? That's why we invested into storage.
Where's the storage? He said he invested in. But once our farmers and fishers had a guaranteed buyer, a place to store their catch, and we just sell their harvest. But that was once, not now. Since the sell-off of the Simaco, there is no national storage facility, no marketing board, no organized distribution channel. Our producers are left scrambling, hustling on WhatsApp and Facebook to sell a few boxes of cucumbers. This is not development, my Straight Dog family. This is not food security. This is not vision. This is economic sabotage by incompetence. And yet, year after year, we are told to be patient. We are told the plans are coming. We are told there's a strategic framework. Well, let me say this clearly. We cannot eat press releases. We cannot sell PowerPoint presentations. We cannot plan promises. The minister's leadership, SAMAL Duggins, is like a dog chasing its tail. A show of motion but no progress. What's worse is that farmers are blamed, fishers are blamed, the weather is blamed, but never is there an ounce of accountability from the top. And yet, we spend millions on agriculture festivals, tent rentals, and high-sounding symposiums, like I showed you at the open day just earlier tonight, my Straight Talk family. That's what we spend millions on. Bandorama, DJs, while the real farmers can't get a tractor on time, can't get feed subsidies, can't get their fish stored, and can't find markets. It's time to end this madness. So tonight, I call for the following. Not in 10 years, not in theory, but now. The immediate re-establishment of a central storage and marketing facility for local farm and fish products, publicly supported and cooperatively managed. A moratorium on pilot crops and imported agricultural projects until first markets are secured for local produce. A national agro-processing initiative with real funding, private sector partnerships, and training for farmers and youth. Emergency funds for cold storage, crop purchasing, and local product development, especially during seasonal gluts. And most importantly, a complete overhaul of the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, overhaul of its leadership, and installation of a results-based, farmer-led reform team. My Straight Talk family, food security is not about hosting conferences or staging festivals. It's about protecting our farmers, managing our land, building markets, and keeping the wealth of agriculture right here in St. Kitts. The current leadership has proven that it is out of ideas, out of touch, and out of time. What about the money on the trees? What about the marijuana industry? Where has that industry gone, my Straight Talk family? Remember he told us, SAMAL, about money on trees? Where is that industry?
Marijuana industry, as we have heard, is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And we have been dragging at a snail's pace in getting involved. And I could not understand for the life of me why. Literally growing money on trees. But yet somehow, we don't want to participate. But I dare say, that era is over, and it's now a new day, and a better day. So in 2023, expect a vibrant, thriving marijuana industry.
Yes, you heard right, my Straight Talk family. In 2023, he laughs. That's 2 years ago. But we must no longer accept the incompetence of SAMAL Duggins and the team inclusive of the leader, Terence Michael Drew. They're wrapped in casual policy talk. It's time to demand more, because our farmers deserve more. Our children deserve more. And this nation, our home, deserves a future where we feed ourselves with pride, with purpose, and with power. Enough talk. Enough excuses. Enough rot. Let's reclaim agriculture for the people. And to achieve that, we must get rid of Minister SAMAL with his same old agriculture policy of expecting different results. And that's my story tonight, my Straight Talk family, and I am not going to change it. But I'll open the lines, entertain your calls, and entertain your emails. And when I do so, and I'll do so momentarily, I anticipate that you will respect others. And of course, to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned. And let us, my Straight Talk family, try to build goodwill and ensure we address and support the concerns of others. And in the process of saying and or doing those things, let us strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. With that said, my Straight Talk family, at 3 before the 9 o'clock hour, we go to the lines and take this first call. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Good night, Mr. Library.
Good night, my dear.
Agriculture is our wisest pursuit.
Is our wisest?
Wisest pursuit.
Wisest.
Pursuit.
Yes, pursuit.
Because it will, in the end, contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness.
More to real wealth, good
morals, and happiness.
Good morals and happiness.
I repeat, agriculture is our wisest pursuit because it will, in the end, contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness. Have a great evening.
Have a great evening as well, and we thank you, as usual, for your quotations that we get every show, to be exact, from across the Narrows, and we welcome them. Always thought-provoking. Agriculture is our wisest pursuit because it will, in the end, contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness. So true, my Straight Dog family. And we need to be self-sufficient in the food we eat, instead of depending every Tuesday on that tropical vessel, which Jew criticized when he was in opposition. And we had, at the time, COVID. But he's there 3 years, and the same ships continue to come. If the tropical don't call on a Tuesday, we are in trouble, because these supermarkets buy just in time. Caller, good night, you're live.
Yes, good night to you.
Good night, sir.
It's a burning shame where we have brought agriculture in this country. I sit tentatively, I listen and I watch, and I actually stand and would be in solidarity with the farmers. Farmers are under too much pressure in this country. As a farmer, your sole job, your duty is to go and produce, to distribute. You should not be a farmer, have to come out, do the marketing, do the sales, still got to be a third hand. You got to do everything, and then what's going to happen now? Who can go back in the field to help in production again? You have a marketing unit at the agriculture department. The marketing unit, they're responsible for opening avenues. We are in a world of technology. Back then, I could recall we used to get like faxes, and the fax machine would tell you which farmer have which commodity, the contact numbers and stuff like that. The onus is on the marketing unit to help the farmers. Because if you're going to bring in an abundance of pineapples and bananas and distribute them to the farmers, you expect them to sell watermelon when you're going to get them pineapples and bananas? So this is where a lot of the fight, because you put in the farmers to compete and fight against each other, and you don't have a market for the produce. And one of the most frustrating things is for a farmer to labor, put in his hard labor in this kind of sun, and then when you look, the results are nil. It's frustrating. Then when you go to them and you hear your views, it's a big thing. I could recall the 25th of February this year. I expressed my feeling about what is going on in the agriculture department. I mean, they keep on promising me, oh, they're going to give me a piece of land. But you could find 100 acres to put down pepper to burn people more, which will ensure you got a market. But when we want conky and all kind of things, you can't give me an acre so I could plant some pumpkin and some pepper. What we reach Tabasco? I don't see that now. You have you're bringing in now the persons in charge of security, defense force. You give them 5 acres to farm. So you're now taking security and putting security into agriculture. So that's the food security that we're talking about. I would think. Because we are going backward in this place and there's a lot of frustration on the farmers. And I stand in solidarity with them because you're going to tell me that the agriculture department, you're going to bring in 75 bags of feed, but you have 90 farmers. So what about if everybody want one? You're going to end up in the nil. It's a crisis, and when you talk to these guys, they seem as though they know more than you, and they don't want to listen. And you are the one out here feeling, the farmers are feeling the pain. I once told them, I think it was the last year I told them, you guys talking about getting children and young people involved in agriculture. The young people of today are not as tolerant as me and your patches. Them man now play with them man, they don't just But the agriculture comes from passion. When you go out and deal with your plants and your animals, there's a relationship. Animals and plants feed from your body, from your love for them that bring growth and development. It is a sad state where we are in agriculture, and all these fancy words and coverings is not going to get us nowhere. Let us deal with the thing, deal with the farmers. You're going to tell me I gone to a meeting, I'm supposed to meet a person at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and he come in at minutes to 7 in the night and come in with no remarks. And I am supposed to sit there and just listen to the crap you're going to tell me without rebutting. That is, we need to take a stand.
Can I ask?
And I personally said that I would have boycotted it, and so I did, and I wish that other persons would do.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so someone told me about these gluts, and you mentioned watermelons, and you said because they brought in pineapple seeds, that's why people are using the watermelons. But what's happening to the agro-processing plants and so? Is that up and running?
I don't think to the fullest. There are members, persons who are actually doing such. There are persons who are trying to branch off and do the little thing because, everything is now a hustle. But everything within the agriculture department is watered down. Take, for example, if you have 8 districts, you're supposed to have 8 liaison or field officers. These field officers, their responsibility is to go around and check the farms, see what the farmers are doing, how they could help if there's any pests, and so you write a report so they could help instead of pests spreading all over the place. If you do forecasting now, you should realize, okay, the guy them down in Tabernacle, he look like them man got a lot of watermelon. Them down in Sandy Point look like they got watermelon. Okay. Let me pull this. I think we're going to cut back on the importation of watermelon because we have an abundance to supply this and that. Go on your computer, see if you could get a market in St. Martin or wherever the place is. I look at it a couple of years ago. You have a boat coming from Windward Island, coming up with bananas given us. We have stuff here. You can't organize a trade to get, because the captain will be glad to take back stuff to the China Island where they're going. Yeah. And this thing about farmers waiting so long for me check. If I come out with wrong and I give you something today, you're supposed to have something within your budget, some mechanism. Even you could give me a 50% deposit and tell me within a month, 2 weeks, you're going to give me the rest. Well, you have farmers waiting 3 and 6 months for crops that's supposed to go in 6 weeks. It's not becoming of us. And all these fancy talks and stuff that they're going on with. It's not good. And that is, I got a lot of information. More information than the world would even expect me to have. But I want to thank you for taking the call.
Thank you.
And as always, I listen, and I want to tell you, keep the fire burning, because I can burn fire when I'm ready. I listen, I gather information, and then I set a blaze. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I want to thank you as well for your contribution. Well said. You gave us a snapshot of what's happening in the area of agriculture with the farmers. Because when someone told me that the farmer called him to get the watermelons out of his field, and he had to feed them to his pigs. I found that saddening. And you wonder, because you should be able to use the glut, the oversupply you have. You make watermelon drinks. There's so many different things you can make from the watermelons. But let's go back to the lines. Caller, at 9:08, you're live. Hello,
good night, Mr. Libert.
Good night, my dear. How are you?
How are you this evening? How are you? Monday night I ain't get in.
Okay.
But I'm getting tonight very early and not too late.
Okay, my dear. I'm happy.
What is the topic? What is the topic for tonight?
We are looking at agriculture. The topic: same old agriculture policy, expecting different results.
Oh, I see. Well, things could be better, with all of those gentlemen who have in the thing to do in Think It, because all those, how I could say it, chemical food that coming from overseas, we can get good stuff here. Those chemicals were making people sick.
Yep.
But I'm glad to know that that is the topic tonight. Watermelon, pumpkin, sweet pepper, and different things can grow right here, local, can grow right here, and not for me to get those kind of chemical food here in Think It. What I'm called to say, Mr. Libert, we have the deck here over there at Montidal in Sandy Point, at the main street in Sandy Point. We have been mauling it. And there's children, small little children going there. Parents going to work to fight life for the kids there. That you need to clean out. That they need to clean out. I do not know who over it. If it's Jeffrey. But I'm sending a message to him tonight. They need to go and check all the daycare school, preschool, high school, primary school, all the school, Think It. They need to go and check them and stop waste time here and there and everywhere. They have us here in this country here, Mr. Libert, like a laughing stock. They ain't studying about poor people who put them there. They forget about poor people. For 5 years to come again, And when the 5 years come, they're going to get the backside out of India. All the wickedness they don't do, all wherever they don't do.
But just
they have to come out.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just being curious. You confirm that mole is in the daycare center? Someone told you that? Okay.
Yes.
And children
I have a grandchild going to school there.
Okay. You stopped her?
And the next thing again, the health center for Sandy Point again have been mole. You cannot get no medication from there because they close it down. What is that? What is that? Sean was in there for 7 years and Sean should have been able to see that Sandy Point build up and fix up. But you see the Labour Party gone in inside there, And they have us like we the laughing stock. They're studying about the people, the family, and the self, and to hell with who poor people put them there. But the month them flying and the year them flying for them to get out of India. All the private plane they're going pan every minute. No, up to now, no private, no hospital could be there. No school could be yet. Everything anyway, and everything cannot come yet. Mr. Libert, what kind of life we live in here in this country here, underneath this government here? What kind of life we live in? Things getting harder, cancer living in the shop getting fire, and nobody could say nothing, nobody could do nothing about that. Dr. Drew is not serious with this kind of thing here. He ain't serious with this country. He need an honest person, an up-to-date person to run, think it in the right direction. Things are going good, things are going well. They have us as a laughing stock in this country. And they need to get out. They need to come out and they need to get out. Because they're doing a lot of shit and fat. He and he cabal them. They need to come out, they need to move, they need to go.
Okay.
What happened to the teachers then? What happened to the nurses then? What happened to the doctors then? Eh? And this commissioner, you know, Mr. Loybon, listen me good, you know, they want them flying, you know. And me not see nothing happen, nothing take place, nothing come true, you know. They know that arrest him. They know that suspend him. Nothing at all, and he's still out there working, you know. He's still out there working, the commissioner there. He need to move. The post is too big for him. Whenever the government change, he going more. Calico life not going on, you know?
Okay, my dear.
Calico life not going on, so
Okay.
somebody can pay and perseverely.
Okay. Thanks a lot for your intervention. Thanks a lot for your contribution. Collect one's aunt. Okay, thanks a lot, my dear. Thank you very much. I always understand your passion. And as you mentioned, Prime Minister Drew, we understand, we reliably informed that he took a chartered flight, or he chartered a private aircraft to fly from Toronto to St. Kitts. And remember, Mia Motley said this just about last week or week before. She said this.
Then the total, and in 7 years, the total amount comes to just about 1.457 million across 93 trips, with an average of $15,000 per trip, Mr. Speaker. I don't travel first class. I go at the last possible minute and return at the earliest possible minute. I do not stay in luxury suites, as was the wont of many a minister before this government came into office. And Mr. Speaker, everything is here. Attendance, look at all of them. If it isn't CARICOM meetings, it is the UN meetings. If it isn't the UN meetings, it is the COP meetings. If it isn't COP, it is individual meetings that require us security. On occasion, I have done 1 or 2 speeches. And Mr. Speaker, if I were only spending money, I wouldn't mind. You might curse me. That 1.45 million, you know what I asked the PS to prepare for me too, sir? What are the benefits in terms of grants that this government has gotten as a result of that travel?
And yes, my straight dog family, would Terence Michael Drew do the same? Would he be as transparent as Prime Minister Mia Motley, accounting for $1.5 million in travel expenses over 7 years, an average of $15,000 per trip? We know that Terence Michael Drew went to UNGA along with his foreign minister, Denzel Douglas. Douglas returned, but we understand that Drew returned either late last night or early today via private charter. It's 9:16, my straight dog family. The lines are open. We are discussing a very important topic tonight, agriculture. You may be aware that the 19th Caribbean Week of Agriculture is being hosted here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It ends tomorrow. It comes on the heels of the Open Day, which was launched today. Open Day, Agricultural Open Day, that's an annual event here in St. Kitts. And this event, if you look at the schedule, it's like a bandorama, DJs and bands, and that's what's happening. But the time has come, we are of the strong view, to revolutionize agriculture in St. Kitts and I speak to St. Kitts because we don't hear much about Nevis. But let's take some emails here. The Premier is a very good liar, reads this email. Every now and then, he makes a statement that Dr. Harris was getting money from Taiwan for St. Kitts and Nevis, and he was unaware of it until Prime Minister Drew brought it to his attention. The way in which the Premier crafted this story with Drew, anyone with just a modicum of sense will easily discern that the Premier is lying and has concocted this falsehood against Dr. Harris. Mr. Premier, don't you realize that every day your sins are finding you out? As a bare-faced liar, Harris is your colossal problem, reads this email. This other email reads, Mr. Premier, I am certain that you are fully acquainted with the legal aphorism that justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to be done. Having your wife involved with the lands on the southern side of Nevis, with the so-called investors, and you, as the head of the Nevis administration, is certainly a conflict of interest. You seem to forget that in a similar case in Nevis that was tried in court, the judge asks you which hat you were wearing, for as Premier you should be representing the citizens of Nevis. But it was so obvious that your interest was with the investors and not with the people of Nevis, whom you sworn to represent. You have failed and disappointed those of us who elected you to serve, but never again, reads this other email. And for those who may have just joined me belatedly, tonight we have presented our thesis, which I have titled, Same Old Agriculture Policy, but Expecting Different Results. And I came with this topic against the backdrop of the 19th Caribbean Week of Agriculture, which is being hosted here in St. Kitts, and the 30th Agriculture Open Day, which was commissioned today. And we are saying that enough is enough. Our fellow citizens, farmers, youth, and patriots of this proud nation. And tonight, we are also saying, is not just to talk agriculture, but to expose the broken policies, the recycled promises, and the failed leadership that have kept our agricultural sector, that is, in a state of stagnation, decline, and shame. And we must call it what it is. It is a betrayal of our farmers, our food security, and our future. And when we reflect on the last 20 years, in 2005, sugar production came to an end. And believe it or not, Terence Michael Drew no doubt thought about recolonizing the country as he did before in his comments. He said this about replacing sugar. But replacing sugar with what, my Stray Dog family? He wanted to replace sugar with Tabasco peppers. He said this.
We are here transplanting the first set of seedlings into this fertile ground right here in Newton Ground. This is really a remarkable day. Since the days of sugar, we have not had a major crop to replace sugar in a way that it would provide hundreds of jobs and in a way that it would bring foreign direct exchange. So this is revolutionary.
Revolutionary, call it. Tabasco peppers replacing sugar, my Stray Dog family. But that bold decision to close the sugar industry in 2005 was meant to usher in a new era of agricultural diversification and local food sustainability, I should say. But has it done that? What has changed since? You may ask. Where is the bold new vision? Where is the investment? Where are the results? And year after year, this Minister of Agriculture and his department, SAMAL Duggins, continue to recycle the same rhetoric, the same strategic plans, the same empty buzzwords, and expect us to believe that this time things will be different. And I like the quotation which I got tonight. Agriculture is our wisest pursuit because it will end contribution most to real wealth. It will in the end, contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness. Let me read that again. Our quotation coming from across the Narrows in Nevis. Agriculture is our wisest pursuit because it will in the end, beg your pardon, contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness. But at the 19th Caribbean Agricultural Week, we heard more of the same talk of South-South cooperation, climate resilience, youth engagement, and agri-tech. But what we did not hear is how exactly these glossy words translate into real crops, real support, real solutions for farmers on the ground. We heard that agriculture is the anchor for food security by Straight Talk family. This is what we heard. Not saying you believe, but this is what we heard from the minister.
Gather here under the theme, Sowing Change, Harvesting Resilience, Transforming Our Caribbean Food Systems for 2025 and beyond. This theme, ladies and gentlemen, captures both the urgency of our time and the opportunities that lie before us. It reminds us that the seeds we plant here today, the policies we shape, the partnerships we build, will determine the resilience and the prosperity that we shall reap tomorrow. It also challenges us not only to manage agriculture, but to transform it into the bedrock of a food-secure, climate-smart, and economically vibrant Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, agriculture is not just another sector. It is the very lifeblood of our people. It is a guarantee that every family can access healthy and nutritious food. It is the engine that can reduce our food import bill, create dignified work for our youth and our women, fuel entrepreneurship, and anchor our societies in resilience against global shocks.
And having said all of that, my Straight Talk family, this minister now confesses that too little is being given in terms of support to agriculture. He said this, my Straight Talk family, believe it or not.
But colleagues, let us admit it. Our region has not always given agriculture the priority it deserves. Too often, it has been seen as a sector of last resort, rather than recognized as a pillar of sovereignty and a pillar of growth. For too long, our farmers and our fishers, the true heroes of food security, have carried the heaviest of these burdens with too little recognition and too little support.
He confessed that too little support is given to farmers. What's the vision? What's the plan? My Straight Talk family, I confess, I submit that this is not leadership. This is lunacy. Like I said before, I repeat it. Albert Einstein said, and I quote, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results." Well, I asked you before, I'll ask you again, is this not insanity? There's been no meaningful increase in the agriculture budget. You heard earlier that our extension officers are under-resourced and they're not going to the fields to see the farmers. Our farmers are overworked and under-supported. Examine the fisheries sector, which should be thriving in a maritime nation like ours, but it continues to be neglected. Meanwhile, they throw one-day spectacles. The open day is a two-day spectacle. And we expect applause. What we expect is a day of music, food, and speeches. Smack in the middle of Caribbean Agricultural Week. And my Straight Talk family, let us be clear. Do not be fooled. The Department of Agriculture and Fisheries has become a revolving door of inefficiency and incompetence. The minister talks, but the fields remain barren. The people clap, but the country still imports over $200 million in food every year. Remember, he promised to cut the food bill by 25%. He did make this promise, my Straight Talk family. SAMAL Duggins.
Madam Speaker, I now wish to turn our attention squarely to the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Marine Resources. In this ministry, Madam Speaker, our goal is, of course, to ensure that we bring food and nutrition security to our nation. We want our people not only to have more locally produced food, Madam Speaker, but to ensure that this food is of the highest nutritional and quality standards. And in that regard, Madam Speaker, we have adopted a more measurable goal. A goal that we have not adopted alone. For as members of CARICOM, we have bought into the 25 by 25 agenda, where we have agreed across CARICOM to invest in our people that they may more adequately be able to participate in reducing our food import bill by 25% by the year 2025.
What did he do, my Straight Talk family? He spoke of greenhouses. Where are the protected greenhouses? Where are the farmer subsidies? Where is the National Seed Bank? Where is the irrigation infrastructure for climate resilience? Where is the access to regional and international markets? Let me tell you, none of these will come to fruition under the current leadership in the country, Terence Michael Drew, and more particular in agriculture, SAMAL Duggins. Because they believe that leadership is about photo ops. But my Straight Talk family, it's not. Leadership is about putting farmers at the center of policy and not politics. At 9:31, caller, you're live.
That is good evening. I'm back again. I realize that not much folks was calling. I could recall when they first came up with this rant about 25 by 25 agenda. I was there at the meeting and I told them, I got up, I spoke passionately, I told them 25 by 25 is far-fetched. We were just about in the peak of a very hot time. Crops are not going to thrive like that in hot weather. I tell them we have the elements of the weather against us. By the time you look, hurricane season us. And all these stuff. And see where we are now, 25, but we don't reach 25. I don't know if it's the next 25 down the road, the next Silver Jubilee. But the goalposts keep on moving. I personally signed the MOU. Right? I went to the meeting, I signed the MOU. Patches, the apostles, I see trucks passing, giving people drip line, man who got land fence. They get fence into fence, they fence land. Turn on, sell the wires them and all this stuff. And people who ain't got nothing, ain't get nothing. Persons who go to the meeting, stand up, listen, make presentations, ain't get nothing. But persons who sit down on the side, get all kind of things and just they turn on. And I can't really blame the farmers, so to speak. Because if you can't get your crop sell and they bring wire to you, but sell the wire them, at least you make a little change. And if this is state is what we have reached in agriculture. You're going to give a man 10 acres to produce. If you have field officers who should be doing surveillance, and you go and you realize, partner, for the past 4 months I've been here and you're just utilizing an acre, I think it's only fair we have persons mean. I think I'm going to cut it in two. I'm going to give somebody else 5 and give 5 and then we move forward. If I see potential in you, I could then see if I could get something organized. But you don't have persons there who actually could help in the production and you just got them pushed aside for what? Because of what? You're up in your feelings because persons are speaking out on the wrong and the ills that you're doing. You have a system there. These guys have their farms. And if you look at their farms, all the high-tech stuff and greenhouses, they're there. But none out there for the average farmer. You have places where people could actually sleep overnight and stuff. But you don't have this for the local farmer, for the average farmer. What about, I always tell them, I think about the small man. You say you're introducing small farmers, backyard farming. Take, for example, a man come from east. He got to catch 2 buses to reach up to the Department of Agriculture to get a bag of rabbit feed or pig feed. When he go up here now, none there. So you put him at a disadvantage. Then some of the busman then want to say, oh, you got to pay extra because you're going with this. So you got to think about the small man. If you know that Tom come every month, come buy a bag of feed, at least somewhere inside the system, a bag of feed should be there for Tom. If you know how it be 20 bags, you should not have because everything is a database. So you don't understand how you're talking about, oh, you increase production, you increase feed, but because the more you increase, the more you out the system because you get fees on Friday. The department ain't opening over the weekend and Monday morning none there. So somebody fooling somebody. That is a thank you for the airways.
Thank you, my brother. I can feel your pain, as a farmer yourself, I've heard of this story about getting feed on the Friday and the office is closed on the weekend. And when one returns on Monday, there's no feed available. Very interesting development. And my Straight Talk family, as I was saying, tonight I came before you not only to expose the rot within the agricultural department, and by extension within the Terence Michael Drew administration, but I came before you to demand change. And some suggestions I advance that we should radically overhaul the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, starting from the top. But it's 9:37, and I'll take this call. Caller, you live.
Good evening, Mr. Lywood.
Good evening, my brother. How art thou?
Not bad, not bad. This week I called you about 2 or 3 times
Yes,
in it,
I saw you.
and I couldn't. Oh,
Couldn't get through.
no, I mean, you refused to answer my calls, man.
I saw a number from you, my brother, and I really, I had all intentions to return your call, and I must plead guilty. I did not. So charge me.
No problem. I will charge you. Yes, tonight's topic, interesting topic. In 2022 and 2023, a bit of 2024, we were heard from the agricultural department, the top of the agricultural department, that we were expecting something like 8,000 coconut trees, 4,000 banana trees, and another 4,000 plantain trees. What have become of those? Have we got one coconut tree?
I'm afraid you stumped me with that question, but I know I've heard that the plantains are not being. I can't find a market for the plantains, so it suggests to me that they got the plantains and the bananas, but we're still getting bananas. But I can investigate about the coconuts.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know because we import a lot of coconuts, especially bottled coconuts. We get all kind of brands coming from overseas. Mm-hmm. Why can't our agricultural department be bottling coconut as well and shipping it to our neighbors? Is a way of making money.
Yep.
Instead of importing these things, we have good soil. Everybody's drinking coconut water these days, and I'm sure petitions and divisions would prefer to drink their own local coconut water, bottle the coconut water to avoid
of course
other instances. And then having to import coconut water from God knows where. And along with that, the same thing is true for watermelon. We can be making watermelon juice and shipping it out too. We can also be doing pineapple, doing pineapple juice and that kind of thing. Bottling these things is a good way of making the agricultural department making money.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of body with Tabasco, pepper and all kind of stupidness and marijuana and all kind of thing. Let us get into something that's constructive that the world will accept from us.
Point taken, my dear brother. Point taken.
We seem to be focusing on the wrong thing somewhere along the line.
As I
said, it'd be interesting to know how far we are with these Tabasco peppers. Have the trees borne any fruit?
It's over a year now. We haven't heard an update on this seeds that were planted.
The minister might the monkey eat them. Monkey don't eat pepper. Not hot pepper.
Never even thought about that.
But you got to find excuse.
Never thought about that one, right? But
there's things that we can do to cut down on imports and also export. And I say bottled drinks is one good way. Because I drink occasionally. I see bottled sugar cane juice and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's lovely. I think it's probably done by the Taiwanese and that kind of thing. So the things that we can expand upon and, really make some money from, man.
Oh, yeah.
But these fellows sitting down, they want to have an agricultural show that competing with music festival and that kind of thing.
Imagine that, eh? Imagine that. There's so many bands that open there, Not saying the band shouldn't get a job, but
I'm surprised they didn't invite you to sing, man.
No, man, I'm not capable. I am.
Oh, I see. You lost it. Okay.
I lost it. No longer.
Well, have a good night. Good show. Good night.
Thanks a lot, my brother. Thanks a lot for that intervention. And yes, Juice said he invited Tabasco. Remember he said this. Oh, we got this. Okay, we Missed that again. But he replaced.
We are here transplanting the first set of seedlings into this fertile ground right here in Newton Ground. This is really a remarkable day. Since the days of sugar, we have not had a major crop to replace sugar in a way that it would provide hundreds of jobs and in a way that it would bring foreign direct exchange. So this is revolutionary.
Well, revolutionary, but we have not heard anything about this Tabasco plan and that crop to replace sugar. We understand for 1 acre you need 300 workers. So we don't know how many workers have been employed. But my Straight Talk family, at 9:43, we were speaking about going forward. And we made suggestions. We just did not criticize. We made suggestions that going forward, we will no longer be fooled. We've seen no irrigation infrastructure for climate resilience. There's no access to regional and international markets. But we came tonight, and the suggestions we made are several. Empower young people with land, finance, and innovation to make agriculture attractive and profitable again. Launch a national food sovereignty strategy so that we feed ourselves before begging the world for assistance. Because agriculture impacts our national security, believe it or not. Agriculture is our dignity. Agriculture is independence. And as long as we continue to depend on that weekly tropical arrival, that container ship, to eat, then we are not free. Certainly not. We deserve better, my Straight Talk family. Our farmers deserve better. And St. Kitts and Nevis deserves bold, competent, and accountable leadership that treats agriculture not as a sideshow, but as a national priority. SAMAL planned the first set of Tabasco seeds. What has become of those seeds? Have they germinated? It's over a year now. What has happened to the Tabasco plants?
As we put into the ground today, the first set of seeds received from Tabasco as a part of our Tabasco pepper project and that partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, this partnership will definitely see St. Kitts and Nevis moving forward in the right direction. As we know, Tabasco pepper is the widest distributed pepper sauce in the world. Not just the region, not just the hemisphere, but the entire world. And for St. Kitts and Nevis to be part of that ecosystem, for us to have a partnership with such a global institution, speaks volumes when you consider our size and our position in the global hemisphere.
And my Straight Talk family, as I said, we deserve better. And the time for talk is over. The time for action is now. If the spirit of true food sovereignty will ever rise again in our land. The collapse of agriculture under failed leadership is nigh. Terence Michael Drew and SAMAL Duggins, they have a rotten strategy. And I spoke tonight not in celebration, but I spoke in frustration. in truth and in defense of our farmers, our fishers, and our food security. Believe me, we've had enough. I've listened to the farmers. I speak with them. For too long, they have been fed empty slogans, glossy plans, and glorified public events. While the real backbone of agriculture in St. Kitts continues to break under the weight of neglect, poor planning, and incompetence. The Department of Agriculture and Fisheries has become a national embarrassment. And the Minister SAMAL Duggins, instead of confronting the hard local realities, he continues to chase foreign fantasies. He can never speak unless he speaks about Nigeria. There's something special about Nigeria for SAMAL and for Terence Michael Drew.
Agriculture today demands regional solidarity and global partnerships, especially South-South collaboration. This is why St. Kitts and Nevis has been deepening ties with our brothers and sisters in Africa. More recently, we have been establishing strong bonds with Nigeria. Our partnership with Nigeria, though, is more than just bilateral engagement. It is a demonstration of what South-South collaboration means when you put it into practice. It reflects the understanding that our challenges are shared, and therefore, so too must be our solutions. Together, we can forge a bridge between Africa and the Caribbean. For the Caribbean, this collaboration is not just optional. It is essential if we are to thrive in a world of shifting geopolitics, fragile supply chains, and growing climate threats. So, as we meet here over the coming days, deliberating on policies, showcasing innovations, strengthening partnerships, let us carry this spirit of solidarity with us. Let us ensure that this Caribbean Week of Agriculture is not only about the Caribbean, but also about our shared journey with the wider global South.
I want to thank this caller for holding. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Yeah, Patches, good evening, man. Yeah, Patches, good evening to you and the listeners.
Good evening, my brother. How are you?
Yeah, as we had a goal last year, or this year, 2025, the goal for the reduction in the import bill, I would have liked to see the minister bring that, update us as to where the figures fell, like last year. Did they decrease that import bill, and by how much? That way the citizens can know we're moving in the right direction instead of just changing the goalposts and not giving us a true update. Talking about the agriculture open day, Patches, I understand that there was a protest happened. There was a protest that was staged on the open day. I didn't think that you mentioned that at all today to the listeners. I mean,
yes, I made mention of it briefly. Yes.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay, my fault. Yeah, I stand corrected. My fault. That was great of you. I'm happy you did that. You know, the farmers has been complaining so much recently. It ain't funny. It just seems like these guys are just faking out the people. We are talking about a crop. This Tabasco crop is the first from the sugar industry was closed down. I mean, I don't know what type of stuff is that. I mean, can we eat these Tabasco peppers? I mean, we're talking about getting self-sufficient in food, and we move towards a crop like that is going to benefit the foreign investors. You know, how are we going to achieve that goal of being self-sufficient if we don't plant food that we can eat? And as SAMAL Duggins, he made his presentation, and why don't he present to the people the amount of money that's allocated to agriculture in terms of a budget? What's the investment we made in that sector? How much equipment and tools and machinery that did we brought in to aid and assist the farmers? Can he provide an invoice to this audience of how much tractors came in? I mean, these guys just seem like they're faking out the people. And there's been talk that him and the agriculture minister on Nevis, both of them are failures. And we need to follow this stuff very closely because that election is rapidly approaching. These guys, if they're failures, they will have to be replaced. And, we just keep monitoring this stuff, man. But kudos to those guys that stand in the protests. And the farmers also complained about spoilage and wastage, not having storage facilities. And also another point that they made is the marketing strategy. There is no marketing strategy. There's two areas, or the biggest two areas that I heard they've been complaining about: the marketing and the spoilage, not having adequate storage. And I'll leave it there for the night, man. And you guys have a good night. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for your intervention. This email reads: the Agriculture, Fisheries and Marine Resources Minister does not appear to be very enthusiastic about his position. Reads this very brief email. But as that caller mentioned, in terms of budget, he did not outline the budget, but he did say that it's too little to support. This is what he said.
But colleagues, let us admit it. Our region has not always given agriculture the priority it deserves. Too often, it has been seen as a sector of last resort, rather than recognized as a pillar of sovereignty and a pillar of growth. For too long, our farmers and our fishers, the true heroes of food security, have carried the heaviest of these burdens with too little recognition and too little support.
And that's what he said. He did not tell us whether, in fact, they have reduced the food import bill. Neither did he tell us that they have added 5 more years onto 2025 and have moved it to 2030. All he told us, though, that St. Kitts is to become a hub for African agricultural products, particularly from Nigeria. And I ask you, as I close, what sense does that make when our own local produce is being left to rot in the fields? Watermelons, plantains, given to the pigs, spoilage. Yet we hear about a bridge between Africa and St. Kitts Nevis, when there's spoilage in the fields. My straight dog family.
For the agriculture section, I don't think the people in charge know what they're doing with the agriculture program. You hear me?
Yeah.
Farmers got too much spoilage out here in the land, can't get it out of the land, and they're asking more people to come plant.
Too much what?
More land for people.
Spoilage.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I figure something is wrong there too, Mago. Because they were trying to say plant more by 2025 and whatever.
Yes.
I don't think the marketing part
The marketing.
is working.
Marketing.
And I want to agree with you that a lot of food there, but you can't even take it out the ground because you can't sell it nowhere.
You want storage, you want marketing and all
I
of
got
that.
him out in the ground right now. Where I call upon someone who is attached to the minister to come look at what I got, so that the minister could see with the two eyes. Here with the individuals the two eyes. What paper job what you got to do with the minister? Me and call for the minister health, I ain't call for the minister education, I call for the minister agriculture. How come the minister agriculture ain't got nothing to do with what happens on farm?
Yeah.
Sad. It is sad with how it's going in the country, you know.
Sad. And we learned that the open day wasn't well attended. We also got this message: water runs from mountains to the sea. We don't need desalination plants. We need catchments and reservoirs. Water wastes and the same water can be used for farming. Foreign people getting more opportunities and lands with little or no experience. Not bashing them, but our locals need such as the money stays and the money would stay in our economy. My Straight Talk family, as we wrap, we talk about bridging or bridge between Africa and the Caribbean. And I ask you, what logic is this? As we import or facilitate exports for others, and we can't even secure markets for our own farmers. And we spoke about what's happening right now, right across the country. Local peppers, plantains, watermelons, rotting. And what's the minister's plans? Tabasco peppers. Tabasco peppers to replace the sugar industry, said the ill-advised Prime Minister.
We are here transplanting the first set of seedlings into this fertile ground right here in Newton Ground. This is really a remarkable day. Since the days of sugar, we have not had a major crop to replace sugar in a way that it would provide hundreds of jobs and in a way that it would bring foreign direct exchange. So this is revolutionary.
Revolutionary. He said this over a year. But you mean to tell me, my Straight Talk family, that the Department of Agriculture, through its minister, is organizing trade links across the Atlantic, but can't arrange a buyer's program in Connery or storage solution in Sadlers? Let's talk about the agro-processing sector. Another highlight of the minister's speeches. He boasts about value-added agriculture, about entrepreneurship and processing. But let me tell you the truth. When the watermelon glut hits, the rot are fed to the pigs. When the mangoes glut hit, the mangoes flood in, they rot, fed to the pigs. We have no processing capacity, no cold chain infrastructure, no public-private partnership that can respond to surpluses. Not even basic drying, freezing, or puree production. Else you would have mango chips, the frozen cubes, the watermelon juice exports. Nowhere, because leadership is missing. He spoke about storage. Do you remember the days of Simaco, my Straight Talk family? Simaco was sold. Let's us not forget. That was one of the most damaging decisions in our agricultural history. the sale of Simaco. But once our farmers and fishers had a guaranteed buyer, a place to store their catch, a way to sell their harvest. But now, since the sell-off of Simaco, no national storage facility, no marketing board, no organized distribution channel, our producers are left scrambling, hustling on WhatsApp and Facebook to sell a few boxes of cucumbers. This is not development, my straight dog family. This is not food security. This is economic sabotage by incompetence. And yet, year after year, we are told, be patient. We're told the plans are coming. We're told that there's a strategic framework. But let me say clearly, we cannot eat those press releases. We cannot sell PowerPoint presentations. Farmers cannot plan promises. SAMAL Duggins' leadership is like a dog chasing its tail. A show of motion but no progress. And what's worse is that the farmers are blamed. The fishers are blamed. The weather is blamed. And yes, the farmers had every reason to protest today. Because the real farmers can't get a tractor on time to harrow their fields. They don't get feed subsidies, can't get their fish stored, and can't find markets. It's time to end this madness, my street dog family. We need a national agro-processing initiative with real funding, private sector partnerships, and training for farmers and youth. Most importantly, we need a complete overhaul of the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, a complete overhaul of its leadership, and the installation of a results-based, farmer-led reform team. My street dog family, food security is not about staging festivals. It's about protecting our farmers, managing our land, building markets, and keeping the wealth of agriculture right here in St. Kitts. But the current leadership has proven that it is out of ideas, it is out of touch, and now it's out of time. We must no longer accept the incompetence wrapped in casual policy talk. It's time to demand more. Our farmers deserve more. Our children deserve more. And this nation, our home, deserves a future where we feed ourselves with pride, with purpose, and with power. Enough talk. Enough excuses. Enough rot. Let's reclaim agriculture for the people. And to achieve that, we must get rid of this Minister of Agriculture, and by extension, this Terence Michael Drew administration. We must get rid of Minister SAMAL. Same old agricultural policy, but expecting different results. And that's my story tonight, my street dog family, and I am not going to change it. I want to thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight as always. And I leave you with a quotation as well. Agriculture is our worst pursuit because it will in the end contribute most to our agriculture is our wisest, take that back, our wisest pursuit because it will in the end contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness. I thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight, and as always, I thank you, the many listeners. I thank those of you who called and those who sent emails. Remember, you are the ones who make Straight Talk, and for that reason, I say a big, big thank you. I'm Ian Patches Liber, and God's Spear. We will connect on Monday for another edition of Straight Talk. Oh, how this week just flew. Monday, we connect. Until then, have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Be good to all whom you meet. Go to church, my Straight Talk family. Do your chores. And remember that whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve. But first of all, you got to believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you through the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye. Until we connect on Monday.
For the morning light, give Him thanks and praises for taking me safely through the night, for the rest of food and loving care, and for my mother's breath of life that's got me here. So whatever my mind conceive that I will achieve, you better believe. Because I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good, the best I could. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on, till I reach the top somehow. Down on my knees, to the Lord I kneel and pray. Heart and soul, beg Him to take me through each day, my guardian to keep